Hello and welcome to Lantern Lane Stories. Tonight's story is The Storks of Alsace, Why They Fly Home Each March. Welcome to a small village in Alsace, where houses lean close like old friends. Their walls are white, their wooden beams are dark brown, their roofs are steep and red like little hats. It was early March. The air still smelled of chimney smoke and pine needles. Spring had not arrived yet, but it was on the way. The first soft buds peeped from the apple trees. In one of these snug houses lived a small girl named Annick. She had soft brown braids and a blue wool coat with silver buttons. Tonight she pressed her nose to the cold glass. Her breath made a tiny cloud on the window. She wiped it gently with her sleeve. High above her chimney sat a great round nest. It was made of sticks, dry grass, and warm brown mud. But the nest was empty. It had been empty all winter long. "Grandpa," she said softly, "when will they come back?" Her grandfather sat by the warm stove, carving a little wooden sheep. He looked up. His eyes were the color of an old river stone. "Soon, little one," he said. "Very soon." He tapped the paper calendar on the wall. "It is March now. March is the month they fly home." Annick climbed onto the wooden bench beside her grandfather. The bench had a red cushion that smelled of lavender from the summer fields. A small pot of tea hummed quietly on the stove. The kitchen tiles were cool under her stockinged feet. "Grandpa," she asked, "where did they go all winter?" He smiled and set his carving knife down. "They went to Africa," he said. "Africa?" "Yes, very far away, where the sun is bright and the land is warm and golden." Stretched his arms wide to show the long, long way. They flew across the great blue sea. They flew over Spain. They flew above deserts of soft yellow sand. They rode warm bubbles of air the way a paper boat rides a stream. Annick blinked. "That is so far." "It is," said Grandpa. "Storks are strong, gentle travelers. Their wings stretch wider than a tall man can reach with both arms." He held out his arms to show, but his arms were not quite long enough. Annick laughed. "Their long red legs trail behind them like silk ribbons. And in the air, they hardly flap, they sail." Annick imagined a sky full of red ribbons slowly sailing home. She liked the picture very much. "Grandpa," she asked, "what do storks eat?" "Frogs," he said softly, "and little fish, and mice that hide in the grass. They walk slowly through the wet meadows beside the river Rhine. They tilt their heads, they watch, then snap, quick as a wink, dinner." Annick imagined a stork stepping politely through tall green reeds. She giggled into her sleeve. The next morning, the village woke under a kind, milky sun. The cobblestones were glossy with last night's rain. Tiny puddles glittered between the old gray stones. The bakery smelled like warm butter and sweet cinnamon. Annick pulled on her thick blue coat and ran outside. Other children were already in the square, looking up at the sky. A boy named Pierre was pointing with both hands. Look up there," he cried. Annick tilted her head all the way back. A great white bird was circling slowly above the church tower. Its body was white like new snow. The tips of its wings were inky black, as if dipped in dark paint. Its long legs and pointed beak shone bright red. It was almost as tall as Annick herself, from beak to tail. "It is a stork," Pierre shouted. "The very first one of spring." The stork tilted its wings and floated down on a quiet ribbon of air. It landed right on Annick's own chimney. Tap, tap went the long red beak on the warm bricks. The bird looked into the empty, waiting nest. Then it stretched its neck up and called out to the sky. Clack, 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 clack. The sound was like two wooden spoons knocking together very fast. "That is how storks talk," Grandpa said from the doorway. "They do not sing like other birds, they clatter their beaks." Soon, another stork came gliding down on hushed wings. She landed gently beside the first. "That is his partner," Grandpa said. "Storks come home in pairs, and they come home to the very same nest year after year." Annick clapped her hands very softly so she would not scare them. "Welcome home," she whispered. She watched as the two storks bowed to each other like polite old neighbors. The taller one began to pick up a small twig in his red beak. The other tucked a clump of dry grass into a gap. Slowly, gently, they began to make their old nest tidy again. That evening, the kitchen glowed with 2 yellow candles. A small pot of soup steamed in the middle of the table. It smelled of soft carrots, potatoes, and 1 quiet bay leaf. Annick spooned her soup carefully so it would not splash. "Grandpa," she asked, "why do people say storks bring babies?" Grandpa chuckled, a low, warm sound. He set down his spoon and folded his hands together. "That is a very old story," he said, "and it is half true in a quiet, clever way." Annick leaned closer. The candle flame leaned closer too. "Long, long ago," Grandpa began, "people noticed a small wonder. Every March, the storks flew home to Alsace from far away, and every March, many new babies were born in our villages too. The two things happened at the very same time, year after year." "How could that be?" Annick asked. Her grandfather's eyes twinkled like winter stars. "Well," he said, "in those days, many people held their weddings in summer. Summer was warm, the fields were full of golden wheat, there was bread on the tables and music in the cool evening air. It was the very best season for celebrations. And then, 9 months later, those new families would welcome a baby." 9 months, Annick repeated softly. 9 months, said Grandpa. "Count them on your fingers." She counted slowly, one finger at a time. July, August, September, October, November, January, February, March. "Yes," he said, "from a summer wedding to a March baby. And in that very same March, the storks come home from Africa. So the babies and the storks always arrived in the same week. People saw it every year, they were sure of it. So a gentle saying began, 'The storks bring the babies.'" Annick thought about that for a long, quiet moment. "It is a kind of calendar story," she said at last. "That is a perfect way to put it," Grandpa said. He patted her hand gently. "The storks did not really carry babies in their beaks, but spring brought both of them, like two old friends arriving on the same train." The next few days were busy ones for the storks above the chimney. They flew off in the morning and came back with fresh twigs in their beaks. They tucked dry grass into the gaps in their old home. They patted soft mud with their long red feet. The nest grew taller, rounder, and warmer. Now and then they tipped their heads back and clattered. Clack, 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 clack. It was the gentle music of Alsace in spring. One morning, a neighbor knocked on Annick's wooden door. Her name was Madame Greta. Her cheeks were pink from the chilly walk. "Annick," she said, beaming, "we have wonderful news. My sister has a new baby today, a tiny baby girl. Her name is Leia. She has soft, round cheeks and dark, dark hair." Annick clapped her hands gently in the doorway. "A March baby," she said, "just like Grandpa told me." Madame Greta looked a little puzzled, but kindly so. "Yes, dear, just like the old saying." Later that day, Grandpa took Annick into the garden. He pointed up at the busy nest. "Soon," he said quietly, "the mother stork will lay smooth white eggs. Then, in a few weeks, fluffy white baby storks will hatch. Their tiny beaks will be soft and pale at first, but the beaks will slowly turn red, starting close to their heads. By the end of summer, the little ones will spread their wings and fly. And next March, when they are grown, they too will come home." Annick nodded. She liked knowing that. That night, Annick sat by her window again. The sky had turned the color of soft plum jam. Stars peeked through, one quiet sparkle at a time. On the chimney above her, the two storks stood very still. They tucked their red beaks into their white feathers. They folded their wings like soft, neat blankets. Annick smiled up at them. "Good night, travelers," she whispered. She thought about the long, long flight back from Africa. She thought about a warm summer wedding 9 months ago. She thought about how spring quietly carries so many lovely things home. Her quilt smelled of lavender and clean cotton. Her candle flickered low. Somewhere in the village, baby Leia was already fast asleep. On the rooftop, the two storks were already fast asleep. And far across the sea, the warm sands of Africa were sleeping too. And so, Alsace also slowly, slowly fell asleep. Good night.